Today we will be presenting the technology radios from 1914 to 1918, presented by Tun Lei, Vivian Ng, Ivy Nguyen, and Famita Raman. The first thing that will be discussed is the origins and development of radios. Radios were a crucial part to communication on battlefields. However, they weren't always as efficient as we know them today. Prior to radios, many countries would use telephones and switchboards. However, these were not efficient due to all the lines on the field. They would either get in the way, in which would trip the armies, or the lines would be cut and destroyed by artillery. It wasn't until 1901 where Guglielmo Marconi created the first radio in which can transmit signals across the Atlantic Ocean. This was a major breakthrough for military communication. In 1913, aircraft with a radio at the time was considered cutting-edge equipment, which had a maximum range of 2,000 yards. There were many developments made to the radio technology. Military radio equipment also used vacuum tubes, which were heavy and bulky. As a result, the equipment was difficult to carry around on the battlefield, even on mules and horses, which were still the military's primary mode of equipment transportation. The American Army made some adaptations with the development of a horse-pack set, which used a hand generator and was strapped to the side of the horse. The entire radio transmitter and receiver, in size and design, resembled a saddle. It wasn't until the development of FM radio was when radios became one of the most efficient technology for war.
Before World War I even began, radios were widely used as just a mere method of communication from one place to another. Ships often transmitted messages, like in 1912, where operators on the Titanic depended on radio to communicate with other ships and with onshore radio stations. There are also many different improvements that enhance the use of radio technology regarding the speed and accuracy afforded by the use of voice communication, which would later prove to be very advantageous during the war. Oscillators, amplifiers, and the electron tube made reliable voice communication possible. Radios assisted on the battlefield and was valuable to wartime efforts because operators with portable transmitters were able to warn soldiers of an attack of poisonous gas, giving them enough time to put on their gas masks. And this is furthered because much of Germany was able to use radio transmissions to guide their soldiers in bombings, with radios now being an integral part of airplane, submarine, and tank communications. And without any direct form of communication within the battlefield, which did occur at some points during the war, many casualties resulted by not being aware of things happening around them. But nonetheless, transmissions went greater distances and were more reliable, soon becoming a staple of the war effort. Additionally, Navy radio stations, which had higher powered signals than those sent out on the front lines, were able to relay timely wartime news to vessels at sea. And this is significant because it was the U.S. Navy press that sent its final dispatch of the war, announcing armistice on November 11, 1918, through a radio transmission.
Moving on to the connection to the home front, radio usage during World War I led to further development of technology following World War II. The usage of high wave frequencies as seen in radios were further developed by countries including Germany and Great Britain for the usage of short-range equipment by tactical armies, navies, and air forces. The improvements of this technology influenced the development of portable and mobile radio equipment that were useful in war. Development of radio technology during World War I led to its usage for communication with the home fronts during World War II. During the new war, the need for communication with the homelands began to demand a long-range communication system to be able to connect countries overseas. Through this, listeners will be able to be informed about events of the war in real time as well as the happenings within their own country. They were able to listen to important speeches by the leaders of the warring nations, declarations of war such as the one between Germany by Britain and France in 1939, as well as the ability to keep updated on the progression of war and how it impacts the home country. Through the development of radio technology, listeners were able to have a full picture of the happenings on the battlefront. In all, the initial usage of radios in World War I was able to inspire later developments and improvement to this technology, including the ability to communicate with the home fronts.
Radios in World War I, the effectiveness and the impact. So one particular example of the radio's role is the Battle of Somme in 1916. This battle was the British and the French against the Germans. This is a prominent example in which the lack of communication through radios prevented effective strategy. There was no effective radio communication between the generals in charge and the troops, which hindered chances of winning for both sides of this battle. Also in the Battle of Somme, units were unable to radio in other units or the general, informing them about what was going on. This shows the necessity of portable and wireless communication known as the radio. And so it is crucial to remember that this was in 1916 and technology also improved during the war, not only because of the Industrial Revolution. So radio telegraphy began to become more effective during 1917 and 1918. The primary source of communication was through telegraph lines, not wireless. But the British were the first to utilize wireless radios in battle, but the Germans also employed it even further. Radios became more of a necessity and played a larger role in World War I as distances grew larger. Specifically, the British cut off Germany's underwater telegraph line, so wireless communication was more effective for exchanging information. For short term, there was quick aerial and naval installations of the radio towards the end of World War I, exemplifying the convenience and the effectiveness in communication of the radio in World War I. Additionally, in the long run, radios were used much more in later wars, especially World War II, for rapid exchange of information that significantly helped in strategizing and producing improved actions that were useful rather than meaningless. Therefore, radios played a significant role in World War I.